This is The Shit Take. Join me, Stellaby, and my co-host Arrow for the win as we cover everything from entertainment to current events. We hope to normalize the differing of opinions and keep an open attitude toward anyone who would like to share theirs. If you enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Now let's stoke some flames.
Like, I'm not trying to attack people for being people here. Like, I feel like no matter how I say this, it's not going to come out rainbows and sunshine, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was literally like the worst depiction of how possibly it could have been. Like, it was going to Oz, stepping outside of that door, and then another farmhouse falls on you, because that's just how that was. Like, it was crazy. You know, Ruby Slippers.
Yeah.
I could not click my heels together 3 times and go home. I was already there, and it was hell. Like, it was it was a travesty, man. Like,
yeah,
I
it's
swear
funny.
to God.
It's funny you say that, because literally, and I was taking notes throughout the entire series, and at some point, like, I started thinking to myself, like, each episode seems to be like a different gate, a different layer of hell, you know?
Yeah.
And as we're watching, like, I'm like, okay, well, it's steadily and progressively getting worse and worse. And I think it's the second to the last episode or the last episode, they literally make a reference to the 9 gates of hell, and I was like,
how fitting.
did they know?
Yeah. I'm not gonna bullshit with you. I'm gonna be a completely straight shot. I did write a poem over what I felt my experience was, and it is a 10-line stanza, man. Like, I'm not joking with you. It's 100% serious.
Lay it on me.
Okay, like, you
I
want
to
it
hear.
right now?
I absolutely want to hear. Yeah.
It's called "Oh Cowboy, My Cowboy." When first announced, oh how my heart soared. The casting decisions felt gimmickly and forced. The writers were high. It surely makes sense. For whatever I watched made me feel tense. The camera work was forever Dutch angles. Seeing all quick cuts adds to the mangles. A series devoid of colors and wonders. Effects and fight scenes were tiresome blunders. Journey beyond stars that could have been great. Alas, I'm afraid it suffered poor fate.
Poor fate.
Yeah, right. All right, that could be a little.
Oh
yes.
What you say is absolutely, obviously, 100% true. Like, one of the things, right, that one of the complaints, and I want to start this video off, right? We already talked about this. I want to start this video off. One, we're not the types of guys to come in here and tell you we told you so. We're not the types to do that. But we fucking told you so. We stated all of these things before the case, and we stated them as potential concerns of ours, and we made jokes about some of them that ended up coming true.
It was literally the first video of our channel.
Yeah.
And
it's honestly, what literally pulled us to say, you know, why don't we just put this on YouTube?
Yeah.
It's literally what it was.
It's crazy because, you know, like, it's not like, yeah, like you said, it's like we weren't here to say we told you so, to come on with like this insane amount of like hate, a detrimental like tirade, you know, like we're not marching for some crazy crusade against it. And, you know, first and foremost, we wanted to like it. I wanted to be so like completely like, oh, you know, bang in your face. Like, I wanted to be proven wrong. I wanted to like enjoy this and be like a celebration of not only anime, of Netflix's ability to tell a live action show, but like hope for the future.
But not just that, right? Like, usually whenever you go in with low expectations, at least partial, you know, bits of what you're going into surprises you and throws you off, right? Like, a lot of sometimes, or most of the times, right, there's some parts where you're just like, well, dang, I guess it's not as bad as I thought it was. In this case, I went in with the lowest expectations, and somehow they lowered over the course of the entire series into a deep fucking dive, like literally a nosedive into the fucking ground. And now I'm stuck in a position where, for the past, you know, few months, since all this has been really hyped up, and since we knew, oh shit, we got a date for the Cowboy Bebop series, and we got trailers and all this shit, for the past few months, you know, hearing left and right, you know, you're just complaining for, you know, whatever sake, forgetting, right? And the same people who have complaints about it are the same people who forget that we've gone through this several times. How many times do we have to sit there and forget the times that it's happened before? I refuse to do so. I refuse to ignore the times that it's happened before and just go into something, and the thing is, right, like a lot of stuff you have to turn your brain off for some things. And that's one of
Hmm.
those things that's like, yeah, sure, I understand that. But if you're telling me I have to turn off my love for the original content, if you're telling me I have to turn off my respect for the original content, for the source material, I have to turn all of that off to the point where I have to accept that you are changing something so much, so frequently, and so much of it, and
Intensely.
obviously so intensely. Exactly. Like
Yeah.
not only are you changing it, but you're changing it a lot. And not only are you changing a lot of things, you're changing a lot of things by a lot. So if you're telling me I have to literally, turn off what I know and love to experience and enjoy something, then I am not going to be readily willing to do so. I'm not going to do that because that's not what we were told we were getting.
And I just want to reiterate like that point, like whenever you're asked to be like, oh, keep an open mind, sure, like blah blah blah, expect the unexpected. But whenever it's against the backdrop of forgetting the writers, forgetting the animators, forgetting the voice cast, forgetting the story, forgetting everything that those characters brought to life in the original thing, then why the fuck are you calling it Cowboy Bebop? Like you've clearly made something that is completely different from the original in every goddamn sense of the world. I mean, obviously the characters don't even look the same, so it's just like, why did you want to make this Cowboy Bebop? Why couldn't you have made this anything else, man? Like I just don't understand
Yeah.
that it's become this almost celebration of the mediocrity.
And I know
And
earlier you
I'm
were
just
just
not.
saying forgetting.
Yeah,
I don't think that's an appropriate word. I think the appropriate word is forsaking.
yeah,
Knowing
it's
it's there and
yeah.
intentionally ignoring it because you have a clever idea.
It's almost like the Holy Grail. Like you're seeking something that you're so sure that it exists that you're literally, like you said, forsaking, which is such a powerful word, and I think it carries that weight, pun intended. The Just how far it fell, and it's crazy because you see it constantly in video games, in movies, and TV shows, especially within like the confines of the MCU. There's constantly that phrase, like, oh, we're gonna go beyond this, we're gonna create some new era in the mythos, blah blah blah. And it's just like there's nothing wrong with what has already been proven to be a winner. Because
Yeah.
whenever you're taking that leap of faith, whenever you're trying to, encapsulate all that it is and somehow break through this barrier that's not even there and try and like rise to this paramount of, oh, like look at this fantastically well made, well articulated piece of media that already exists, and we blew it out of the water. And it's just like
Yeah.
I would love just to hear from the people who truly, honest to God, believe, seeing that was some, masterpiece. When again, all I can say is it's a celebration of the mediocrity, and I have honestly, personally lost zero. I've lost all faith in what One Piece and Yu Yu Hakushow can be because I'm just
Yeah.
like, as soon as I saw that they were giving Death Note a sequel, I was already like teetering on that edge. But it's just like, man, like I
It
just
doesn't
don't
matter how
understand.
bad it is.
No,
That's
exactly. And
literally what it
again,
means. Is it doesn't matter if what they're making is not quality. All that matters is that you have a Netflix subscription,
yeah.
one, and if you don't turn that subscription off, they're never going to know how much their content is actually poor value.
Yeah, and again, it's not a viewpoint from ignorance because I am very well aware that this was nothing but business for them. They don't care. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about the people watching at home. They don't care about the thousands of poor reviews out there where people are literally calling it for what it was. Because yeah, like yeah, it's just business to them. Like they're gonna look at the views as a huge success. It's crazy, and I'm willing to go even further into thinking that the whole reason behind this November release date, I don't believe it had to do with the anniversary of the series. I'll have to double check on that, but I think that they were trying to hit like a pre-holiday number because once Thanksgiving and all that happens, it's just gonna be Christmas movies and the
Yeah.
hundreds of Christmas specials that Netflix already has on there. So I think that they're
Terrible
really
movies.
just trying. Yeah, they were just trying to get like this really almost Black Friday view, and I don't think it'll go up from here. Like it's crazy. And just to add to that, like call them
Yeah.
early reviews if you want. Like I really don't care, but it's like so far between like Rotten Tomatoes, IGN, not well, IGN too, but who cares?
Yeah.
But I saw like 41 to like, or 47 to like 51%. And does that feel like a win to you, Stella B?
Not at all. I
Like
mean, at
you,
the very beginning, it was like 42%. I think at one point it fell to 30, 38 or 37. That is awful. Like if you're
like
putting that much effort into something, and it goes like that, you've failed. Even if somehow it rebounds to 60, you still failed. You've still failed because what happened was once that embargo lifted and everybody put out their reviews, that was one of the biggest driving factors. One, can you put the certified fresh on your content, right? And
yeah, which you
two,
couldn't. Yeah.
it's all free advertising. If it was awesome and everybody came out and said, "Oh my god, this is awesome," everybody's gonna watch it.
Yeah, they would have
But
jumped to publish those. Exactly.
why was Cowboy Bebop not number one the day it came out on most trending on Netflix?
Yeah, it wasn't. It was
Because
like, it
of
went
those
from like,
awful
yeah,
reviews.
it went from like 8 to 4, and I think I saw it at 3. I was, dude. I mean, first of all, it was 10 episodes. Get not. It was a fluctuating,
And I
time
told you, I fucking told you it wasn't
length.
going to be 1 hour long each episode.
No,
Fucking
it wasn't.
bullshit. Oh, I hate whenever that shit happens, dude. Why not?
It's like a
Like
no.
you're not being
it,
restricted by any time limit whatsoever. You've already told everybody they're 10 1 hour long episodes. What the fuck happened?
it makes me think if they were trying to like lay these crumbs or breadcrumbs as like hints that there was going to be a second season, or
Yeah.
it hasn't been officially announced. I would pray with how quickly Netflix is to cancel everything that there wouldn't be a second season, because I'm not interested, honestly, like after how that crap went about.
I found myself
It
struggling to
it
get
was
through the rest
ridiculous.
of the series past episode like 3.
Yeah, honestly, like whenever we're going back and forth with it, and I was like, man, I just finished 8. I got 2 more episodes to go, and it was
And
already
that ninth
like
episode
headed.
was fucking.
It
That
was
was
it was
rough. It
bad.
was such a
It wa-
bad. It was a bad time.
yeah, it was already heading so late, and I was just like, man, like I want to finish it. I want it all fresh in my mind. I don't want a chance to let it like, I don't want to say marinate, but just like kind of like, oh, maybe it wasn't as bad as no. Like you had to look at it all from one sitting, and with your streaming services, you're binge watching it because that's the whole freaking point. But there's plenty of people who watch shows all the time, and they're like, oh, they leave it on a cliffhanger, they leave it on this and that, wanting that, welcoming that second season. And I'm just like, I really felt like they did it on purpose here. Like they're like, oh, we're gonna get that call, and Netflix is gonna.
So my problem with the series, it doesn't necessarily lie in, mostly what like the changes they made to the storyline, because a lot of times, right, like changing the storyline is not really that big of a deal. A lot of the times, because some things have to be changed for the sake of getting it into a live action movie or series. And one of the things that I know I did, I'm sure you did as well. I did not post after the initial reviews came out. I didn't post anything negative about the series. I didn't post anything like promoting negativity whatsoever. I wanted to wait until the series came out so I can sit, watch it all the way through, and form my opinion. I
Yeah.
didn't read any reviews beyond like just like the initial first takes, right? Because I didn't get into the actual reviews themselves. I wanted to keep it to myself, but I did see what was happening with the ratings. We watched this as kids. This series is not appropriate for kids.
No, not at
It's
all.
not appropriate for kids. Like you've already pushed out the one audience that the damn show was originally catering to. Like a huge portion of it. One, you made some bullshit fucking claim about Faye and her fucking dressing and all this kind of bullshit.
Oh,
but half the
yeah.
fucking series has titties and ass all over the fucking place. You have people reading porn, like dominatrixes. Like, what the fuck were you talking about?
Yeah, and
Like,
I just want to call. I
Dude.
just want to like clarify on the hypocrisy of what the not only Faye's character was, but whatever she became, and the actress herself. Like, dude, like fuck you. Like you were so full of shit. Like with half
So
the crap
full of
you were wearing
shit.
there. And even the costume that you wore looks so fucking stupid. Like it didn't even look like it was functional. Like how are you even doing that? Her attitude, like my God. And this is not a hatred on just like her, because again, I felt this way across the fucking board with everything that they did this. But just, oh my God,
It was
man, like
awful. It
there's
was
not enough time.
absolutely awful, dude. Like in the
It,
first 3 minutes of screen time that she had already made up for the entire like first 3 episodes of every other character cursing.
yeah,
She did the exact amount of
it was
that in the first three
fucking
minutes of screen
insane.
time.
I hated that, dude. Like I get it. Like we're all trying to be like, the strong female, like warrior, like female empowerment roles, and there's nothing wrong with that. There are plenty of
Yeah.
well written, strong female character roles. Look. I mean, even if you don't like the Wonder Woman movies, they portray Diana as who she is. She's a champion of equality. That's just what she is. And I feel like everyone will set that bar. Everyone wants to be like the next Wonder Woman, and it was just so
Yeah.
insane with her. I want to just, I'm gonna summarize my thoughts into one phrase, and this is this is from Hell's Kitchen. This isn't from Gordon Ramsay, but it's from one of the judges when they were doing their critique on a challenge, and it says, "Change is good, change is great. Being different, is good, but being different just for the sake of being different is never a good enough reason."
Yeah.
And
Never.
that's how I feel. That's how I feel.
Yeah. To me, it felt like with her dialogue, right, or with the dialogue in general, there's just so much cursing in the entire show.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, right, you already put off so much of the original crowd that grew up with this story. You've already pushed off any potential for children to actually watch it today. You've been super hypocritical with your fucking reasoning for character decisions, and then
Yeah.
when it comes to dialogue, it just feels like whoever was writing it just had this idea in their mind, like with every curse word, the substance to the dialogue would increase, but it doesn't. You literally made up of like the entire show is probably 10% curse words, and half of them are dickwad.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's like literally, I feel like it came between like
And
two
it's Faye
decisions to
saying
me.
it.
Yes, absolutely. I felt like it came between two decisions. It was one, somebody who has literally never been exposed to Cowboy Bebop whatsoever, just thought like, oh, this is cool. Let me just make this my own. And two,
Yeah.
somebody who had like the worst idea for Cowboy Bebop fan fiction, and this person was literally like in a position of high enough power that they're like, run with it, because it was so ridiculous. It's like they almost made a parody in a not in a non-satirical way, just a complete like flat out like run-of-the-mill parody film that came released on freaking Redbox,
Yeah.
and it was just ridiculous because like it's like you want to hope that these people are going to call out the stupid decisions within the confines of the show to kind of just like just pull it back a bit. But then when somebody does mention a stupid decision, they just ignore it and they're just like, no, I'm just going to run with it because this is what I want to do.
Now,
And
something else with Faye that was interesting, right? They made her, I guess not expressly, but basically just turned her lesbian.
yeah,
Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. What I do think is a little odd, though, is that the person she ended up being a lesbian or having her first lesbian experience with was the stereotypical female mechanic. That seemed
Yep.
like an odd choice for me. I remember seeing it and thinking, well, for a group of people who are trying to make woke decisions, they stereotype like the female mechanic being a lesbian,
which is just ridiculous to me because again, if you've seen Cowboy Bebop, you'd see how well Jet is at being a mechanic.
Yeah.
He literally fixes their ship from mass destruction constantly. And he's just like, oh, I literally just fixed your ship and you go out running. But in here they made him like so completely ignorant of everything.
Not just
like,
that, okay? I noticed this, right? Like there was like a lot of disrespect towards Jet within the series itself.
Yes, constant.
Jet is in the anime. Jet is like he is like a pillar of respect. All the people, like every time he comes down on planet and like he's meeting up with somebody and they're like, damn, dude, it's been a long time since I've seen you. That kind of shit. Like that is respectful things, but you just don't have that in the Netflix series. Like it's so weird. They added in this weird secondary storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had this weird secondary storyline of him Uh, having to deal with his daughter's new stepdad, who happens to be the guy he thinks, tried
It's
getting him
dirty.
killed back in the day.
Yeah.
Now, Jet is black, right? He's black, but he also has a criminal record.
Yep.
I don't know how that one got through, like on the decision making.
As a decorated fucking cop,
Yeah. Isn't it so weird though? Like,
It's
I don't know, man,
they
it's
made
so
him
weird.
black. They made him a criminal record. They basically tarnished his name and like drove his ability as a
Yeah,
cop through the fucking mud. They made him almost an absentee father when again he doesn't
exactly.
have a family. He
Like
doesn't have kids.
a black
and
absentee father who's an ex-criminal, and it's just like,
it's just like my fucking
what the fuck?
God,
How'd that
dude.
happen? Now, don't get me wrong, right? Because Mustafa, he's actually, for me, he was the only good thing about the show. I think he was the only one that actually pulled off an acceptable version of the character they were portraying. I don't think John Cho was very good. Daniela Pineda went and I don't know. It's not Faye Valentine.
It's not.
Simply put, I don't know what else to say about that.
It's sad enough to say this because I don't even like. The one thing you could not get fucking wrong was casting a goddamn dog. And at
And
first,
I got
again,
it so
remember,
wrong. Oh my god!
remember, we almost didn't even get the Welsh corgi. But my god, did Ein feel like you have to
Dude,
remember? Okay, like
those
let's just
fucking
pretend.
eyes. I just about shit my pants. I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, this has gone off the rails, or this has been off the rails, and I'm just now realizing it. But
We're not
it
gonna
was-
pretend like Spike Spiegel's not the main character of Cowboy Bebop. I don't care what you say. That's he is the literal backbone.
yeah, but not when it comes to money.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But like within the confines of the actual show, the actual series, the original, the only Cowboy Bebop, it is Spike Spiegel's story. He is the spine. He's the backbone. If Jet is the heart and soul, because Bebop is his ship,
Yeah.
and Faye Valentine is like the wit, the deceit, the feminine wiles. You got Ed as the brains, because he's the fucking hacker, and then you got Ein, who's the super dog. It is Spike Spiegel's story, but there's a 5-member crew, 5 pieces of that fucking puzzle, and they literally were like, "Well, fuck it, it's a dog. Let's just have it there as a prop," because that's what he felt like when Ed is a literal like genetically engineered super dog.
They used
and
him.
we don't see any of that.
They used him one time in the whole series. And for a long time, I didn't even think they were going to actually use his original backstory. It just ended up being a random dog that was captured.
Okay, because see, that's the thing too. Because even my roommate had pointed it out, and I was like, "Yeah, I saw it, but they didn't do anything with it." That's why I was so quick to like just dismiss it. Is whenever you see all the dogs captured in the kennels, his is like the super ridiculous, like ultra kennel, and yes, he hacks it so that he can escape. But it's like, dude, like y'all didn't even mention that. It was just like, oh, it's a rich person's dog. I was like, dude, this was not a rich person's dog. This was a dog that was literally smarter than like everybody in the freaking show.
The doctor's not even in the entire series. They replaced him with Woodcock, who, I mean, he wasn't really like a super important character. So, I mean, that one really didn't bother me. But Woodcock just ended up being this really weird character. I originally, whenever I was going through the trailers when we were talking about it before, I thought she was going to be Mama.
And then
but it ended up being something completely different.
Yeah, because even dude, that episode pissed me off too. Like that's honestly one of my favorite episodes, just because it's like
I told you we weren't going to get the scene of them spaceship fighting in hyperspace. Knew it wasn't going to happen.
That was the one thing too. Like from the beginning, I will say it here on the record. Like I was so excited because from that initial trailer when they go through the space gate, the very first thing you see, I was like, that looks amazing. I can't wait to see this. Yeah. And there was absolutely zero fucking
the only
space
time
there.
The only time they
so
fucking show
ridiculous.
space. Only time they show space is whenever they're trying to indicate a time skip of them traveling. That's it.
Yes.
After the 3rd episode, that's it. There's no more. And that's what's really shitty about it, because it's about a spaceship. Literally, the Bebop is the spaceship. So
yeah, but everybody's quick to throw word cowboy around. It's fucking ridiculous. And whenever you first see Spike in the Swordfish 2, I was so disappointed, dude. Like it looks so dumb. I was like, man, like you couldn't even put a splash of budget into making this look halfway Star Wars, at least in a cockpit, man. Like you could have made it look as stupid as you wanted it in space, but if you could have just made it look like ridiculous, like it's very clear he's on one of those like green screen boxes, like held like a freaking like mechanical bull.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. And I was like, dude, like the one thing that like you could have almost entirely forgive every other bullshit decision you made in this endeavor, but like just made the space, made it literally about space, and it's just like
Yeah.
what Earth, blah 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 blah. This all happened in Europa and Titan, blah blah blah. Okay, like you can name planets, we get it.
Yeah. They come to Earth once, right? And
Yeah,
it's to prevent Londis from killing Spike. Of course, they changed
yeah,
the story between Spike and Faye. And again, right, I remember watching the episode and thinking to myself, well, this is okay. Like, I'm okay with story affecting different players. I'm okay with them switching that. I'm okay with it not being Faye who's stuck in the simulation. Instead, now it's Spike having to deal with it. And then 2 seconds later, Julia shows up talking to Spike. And I thought, well, this is not okay. When you change the story
yeah,
to, have it affect a different character, but push a different narrative, that's when it becomes a problem. And my problem with the entire series is, now, don't get me wrong, we've talked about this before. I think it was during the James Bond video.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with women getting powers positions of power, or roles where they're portraying somebody who's powerful. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's not what this story was about. That's not what the story was about. So make a different fucking story.
Yeah.
Write something else. Come up with something original instead of fucking stealing stories and using them as free marketing and free advertisement to get your fucking narrative across. Exactly. What the fuck? I don't understand. You can't come back to these things and claim that there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with these things. What was the one we were talking about just the other? Yu Yu Hakusho, right? Like,
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with them being 4 boys. Create a different story with 4 girls. No one's stopping you from doing this.
Yeah. Like, people act like the magical girl, like, fucking archetype, that whole genre isn't one of, like, the most popular things out of Japan. Like, you got Sailor Moon, you got your fucking, you got your, like, Love Life, your Beat Life. Like,
that's the fucked up part about it, is there's Sailor fucking Moon. If you're eyeballing Togashi's work, and she's his wife.
That's his wife, man.
What the fuck?
One of the most celebrated authors of all time is his wife. He has nothing but respect for the women in his life around the world, and it's just crazy that you would think that.
The story's just not about that.
Exactly. It's a bastardization of it.
It's the same thing with Cowboy Bebop. The story's not about Julia. The story's not about Vicious. The story is about the tales and the adventures that happen on the ship, the Bebop. It's the cowboys of the Bebop. If you needed that explained to you. Like, that is literally what the story's about. Sure, one of them takes a little more precedent, but that's not what, dude. Like
I said, it is the tale. It's ultimately about Spike. But yeah, there are 5 characters there, and they all have importance in the freaking show. And it's just so ridiculous because, to me, in my opinion, it was ruined from episode 1. As soon as you don't get to see, because it's Spike originally who freaking confronts Asimov and his wife.
Yeah.
And you see him in the poncho. He's up talking like the bartender, all that stuff. He does the whole flick of the freaking, what is it? I think it's like a plum or an orange. He talks to her as she's getting groceries, and they ask for the light of the cigarette.
Yeah.
And all
which
that
was
stuff
really
is
weird,
just
by the
showing
way,
you.
because he asks for the lighter, right? And then he struggles to light it. And I was like, it takes literally a second to light up a cigarette, and you've turned that into 5 seconds. And Spike Spiegel smokes, so I don't. It's just a minor complaint for sure, but still.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. It's definitely nitpicking, but I think it's important to show the differences between that. But the thing is, like, that is our first foray into Spike's character. He is the suave. He is the the one who's going to talk up women, and the women usually do respond to him. That's just how it is. And she was like talking about like everything that was going on. He already knew who they were, and then he gets jumped by Asimov, and Asimov almost chokes out Spike. But he manages to plant the tracker on him. Like, it's this whole thing about showing Spike's skills as a bounty hunter. It shows that they don't always get the prey. They're often like getting the bigger fish getting away. But he is a skillful, resourceful guy. But that is completely just thrown out the window by showing like Faye show up, holding him by gunpoint, not even listening to Spike saying, "Hey, you got it all wrong. This is what's going on." Yada yada. He's trying to defuse the situation, and of course she's calling him a fuckwad, fuck nugget. Like I'm a big bad with a gun. Like this, like.
Not
power
just
play
that.
that she's trying to like fucking like show on him, and
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
not just that, dude. But she shows up as a seasoned bounty hunter.
That's destroyed the biggest and baddest of the galaxy that nobody else could touch because, of course.
And then
And it's just so
she continues
ridiculous.
to fumble. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like she's this badass
exactly.
bounty hunter because they've established that later on in the series. Instead of
Packing
being a
heat.
fucking criminal,
Yeah, she was a con woman. That
like
was
you've
her character.
completely changed the character. And that's the thing, right? That's the thing that fucking pisses me off so much, dude. Is Faye was the target. I feel like Faye was the target for this entire series. It wasn't John
Yeah.
Cho. It wasn't
No,
Spike. It wasn't
absolutely
Jet.
not.
It was
Yeah.
Faye and Julia. This whole
Yeah.
story was about Faye and Julia.
I
And-
can't disagree with that.
And why did she even show up in episode 1?
She does not show up till like episode 3. It's ridiculous.
But
I don't know
not
why
even just that, but she ends up not showing up in the live action series in episode 2. She ends up coming back in 3.
That's literally
She's not
what I
even
said.
in
Yeah.
2. So why did she even
Exactly.
show up in 1?
Yeah, exactly. It's like way to make a fucking splash and disappear, right? No, and it was
Just so
to steal
they
this
can show you like, oh yeah,
Yes.
just keep in mind we have Faye coming out.
to steal this scene.
The fuck out
And
of
it's
here.
ridiculous. Yeah, it was just like, oh, and then she makes the big heroic sacrifice, right? And it's crazy. It's just like they're puppets on her string. It's insane, and
Yeah.
it's crazy to think that because, watching it and then just completely seeing the bastardization of her character, and it made me laugh because you would never see that from, Fujiko from Lupin,
Oh yeah.
who is the only woman part of that crew. But what is she? She's the temptress. She's the femme fatale,
Yeah.
man. Like, yeah, dude, she could kick your butt if she wanted to. She could stab you in the back. She could shoot you in a gun. But she's comfortable within her own character. You know what I mean? Like, she's okay being attractive. She's okay, like, wearing the dress. She has the wiles, the high heels. She's a master of disguise. Like, that's her character. And Faye wasn't that different. She was the con man. She was, quick with picking up the lie. Here's a disguise. Here's somebody. But she was okay using that.
Yeah.
And they just seemed so against having a woman portrayed, I guess, like in what is in their mind a weakened state. And it was just so ridiculous because,
But then they stereotype the lesbian mechanic, and
yeah, absolutely.
that's what I mean though. Is like, I don't get it. Like, all of the women in that show were like extremely strong, like in positions of power, could like kill you if they wanted to. Like Anna. I ended up not minding too much. Like, I mean, after like the first couple times they showed Anna, I was immediately just kind of like, I guess I'll just have to deal with this, and it stopped bothering me at some point. But I mean, still a weird change for sure.
Because they changed so many men characters into women.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just so fucking weird because, all right, let me put it this way. Like, if you would, like, one of the first big things that they wanted to like let known was that they were expanding on Julia's backstory, which again ended up
There's
taking like
literally
I don't know,
no expansion.
a third of that fucking show is probably Julia, which is insane for a character that shows up too. If you
Yeah.
want to know about Julia and Spike's backstories, watch the end credits of Cowboy Bebop. It's literally over Real Folk Blues, and it's just mind-boggling to me because Julia was always part of the Red Dragon Syndicate. She wasn't some fucking lounge singer that they discovered in the fucking swap the bop bop of Annie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Anna's, because they changed Annie to Anna, which, okay, sure. But I just think that if you're going to be an inconspicuous information dealer, because again, Annie was from the Red Dragon Syndicate. It was Annie and Mao. They discovered Vicious. They discovered Spike, and they helped raise them up as, to eventually become capos. Vicious wasn't fucking one of the elders' sons. It was just ridiculous to me. But like the whole point of the convenience store is like, yeah, it was an inconspicuous way to just deliver information. Oh, you're buying something here, put this, talk to you, that's it. It's done. They changed that into like this whole fucking jazz, most popular club in the entire fucking, spaceport or whatever. And, here you are just having a bunch of capos and gangsters just literally having this table as
Yeah.
if nobody is going to fucking notice this, which literally showed detectives in the club. And I was just like, my God, dude, like, again, changing it is fine, but changing it just for the sake of changing it. And then again, you see Annie's freaking, room. She's got like the specific drink that Spike, I'm sorry, Fearless, which don't even get me started on that stupidity.
I was actually gonna
it
ask
was
you
just
about
it was dumb. It was really dumb. Like they literally try to change him from like the man with no name to like literally changing his backstory. Like again,
I don't.
it's always gonna come back to it's not Cowboy Bebop. Like it just became something else. But hold on, let me finish this
Yeah, yeah.
thought
Go
because
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I gotta rant this out. Like you go into her, she clearly has the freaking drink of choice that everybody knows that Spike fucking loves, literally there. And then she's like, "Oh, can you keep a eye out for me?" Because even she didn't know he would faked his own death. Well, not even faked, because I mean, he, for all intents and purposes, thought he was dead. But she clicks the fucking, the secret passageway, because of course, to reveal an giant like a power station. Like she has the fucking, everything's on camera. She can listen in. She can drown out background noise. Like, yes, she still is that information broker, but like you're just seeing this like she's fucking Batman over here. And it was just like, I don't know, man. Like it's just so ridiculous. And I guess like that was their way of trying to introduce Ren like very early on, which again, somebody who doesn't come out to like the middle of the show towards the end. And it was just like, I just don't, man. Like I don't understand what their thought process was.
Yeah. The code name though, like my problem with it was not so much like the name itself, right? But what it does is it implies something that's not expressly done within the context of the anime, you know? And
That Spike Spiegel is not his identity.
not just that, but that he is a type of way, which is fearless. While that may be true, right? It's never expressly mentioned. It's never expressly said anything about like, a lot of his time with the syndicate in terms of anything that could really designate you a descriptive word. You know what I mean? You just get what I'm saying?
Character
Like,
trait,
yeah, character trait. Like you don't discern anything like through his backstory with the syndicate other than that he wanted to be with Julia.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I felt like the code name to some degree implied that everybody would have a code name.
Literally,
and all this kind of shit, but then they're the only
went
two.
from his name to a code name. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. And then that's what my thing was. Like, if Vicious has a code name, right? If he's called Vicious, which is clearly not like a name, then in the anime it's an exception. But in the live action series, there's two exceptions. Two exceptions usually imply that there's potentially a rule. So does that mean everybody has a code name, or just those two? So I don't know, just weird little things like that were bugging me. But
it goes further his character then, because like everyone's calling him Vicious. Oh, Vicious is alive.
he was so fucking terrible.
It was dumb because then it goes to like the whole like, oh well, fearless is blah blah blah, this and that, and it's supposed to show like that no matter what, like he gets his man, or he does like what needs to be done while still having like his little code not to kill like children, which then clearly he does, but literally just becomes like a mass murderer by the end of this fucking season, and you're just literally just seeing him gunning down people left and right, which again wasn't Spike's character. Spike was never one to just strictly kill for the sake of being killed. If anything, he'll handle with his fists. Hand to hand was one of the biggest points of his character, and we're not even gonna talk about how fucking terrible these fight scenes are, but
I told you, man.
No, it was.
That's what happens. That's what happens when you cast an actual actor in a role that literally.
I was literally laughing, like even in the beginning, because it goes back to my other point, which Spike guns down like half of fucking Tanaka or Takeda's group, and Jet has to call him out on it. He's like, we don't get a bounty if they're dead. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, well.
He knows that.
Yeah, assuredly. And it's just like, dude, like, are you kidding me? Like, you're a seasoned bounty hunter. Like, why would you behave in this way? Like, it just doesn't make sense that they're like
that's because
so trigger happy.
What it is what they needed to do was they needed to let the audience who has never experienced Cowboy Bebop before, they needed to let them know how the rules work, right? Where they could have done something like like what they did do later on in the series, where the show's playing and the girl literally says, remember, if you kill him, you don't get a whatever. Like, that's the easier way to do it. You don't have to fucking start off with them screaming to each other, don't kill him, we don't get paid.
Punch and Judy were one of the few things that I thought was like, okay, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
And even when Punch steals Judy's line and she gets pissed off because that's how Judy was. Like Judy was like a super diva. She's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna get my agent on the phone to this, like, you know. And then there's even that scene where they're talking about like who they're gonna go out and bag, and they're like, remember, like you said, dead, you know, not wanted dead, only alive. And then it's all those bounties coming in from like this one specific bounty hunter. And I don't know if they're trying to like again throw a thread like, oh, who's this super bounty hunter who literally just, you know, captured 7 of these top 10 bounties while you're sitting there chatting. And it was ridiculous because that whole episode just felt like fucking filler to me. Like
Yeah.
you're trying to inorganically like force 2 characters in a position where they have to go through undergoing massive developments, and it's again not the seasoned bounty hunter who's literally showing like the tools of the trade.
It's that kind of stuff, you know, like
Yeah,
you're
it
the one
is.
that took liberties with the story, and then to me it felt like you were complaining somewhere along the way adding filler when
Yeah.
you didn't have a way to properly present the story. Well, that's your fault. That's not the story's fault. The layout was there.
And I feel like if they just stuck to their guns, did 10 1-hour episodes, I would have been more comfortable with them literally just finishing off the whole show at this point. Because they already tried to smash so much within multiple episodes of a single episodes
Yeah.
at literally, I'm not saying it would have been like pretty by any means, but they could have technically done it. And it was just so ridiculous because I was like, all right, well, whenever he first confronts Vicious, it's not even like at a halfway point really, but they kind of made it into see like, oh, this is our season finale. And then they don't even, again, because it wasn't Faye who helped Spike, we don't even see how he gets over there. For all intents and purposes, he got thrown out of a fucking, like, the top floor of a church. There's no way he should have lived from that. But we don't get to see that as an audience. We're just supposed to believe that not only did he drag himself from this, but completely into, like, the red light district where he can get a drink, come out of a bar, holding a drink, take back a shot, then collapse into a nearby alley.
Yeah.
Not only that, but then a completely different stranger would be there to find him, knowing he'd be there to immediately offer him a job. And not only that, but Ein is somehow there. So it just doesn't fucking make sense at all.
One of the things that bothered me a lot with the whole Anna thing was the keeping in touch with Anna via the like I guess the little shops, the little food carts that you have.
Yeah.
That he comes in and he just talks to the guy, you know.
Yeah.
Anna's the one that initiated the contact with Spike.
Yeah.
But at this point, Spike was on a different planet. How did Spike know, one, the keyword, right?
Yeah.
Or two, where the fucking guy would be, who he would be, any of that
Exactly.
shit. All he said to her was, you know, I'll contact you through the you know, the old way. But and another thing that's weird about that, right, is for someone who's trying to stay off the grid, that would be a link to find him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If anybody discovered it, not only the Red Dragon Syndicate, but apparently, you know, the ISSP and
Yeah.
you know, other crime families that they talk about, which again, like, it was really stupid because in the original series, Mao was the one who, you know, with Anna taught, you know, Spike the ways of the killer, all that stuff, and he was responsible for reaching out to the White Tiger Syndicate,
Yeah.
you know, to officially, you know, break bread. That was going to be the truce between them. And then Vicious kills him, kills the members of the White Tiger Syndicate, and he's like, oh, well, they killed Mao, now it's going to be all out war. Within the Netflix show, Mao is the leader of a sub-family class of assassins called the White Tiger Syndicate. So they don't even have that fucking, like, tie to the rival syndicate at all. It's really fucking weird. And then, again, that guy, like, the contact was knowing where, I guess, the drugs were being made, because he also was like a moonlighter of Red Eye or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, you know, he set up the gun for Spike to see them, but Spike doesn't even take the gun with him. So it's just like, dude, like, what if those lines were connected and they know this guy helped you? Like, they would kill him again. Like you said, it's leaving a paper trail.
Yeah.
And it's just it's creating those inconsistencies, those plot holes.
But not just that,
makes
like
you-
that's what I had an issue with, was the inconsistency. The how did Anna know where he was going to be? One, and how did Spike know where to go? You know what I mean? Like, he literally comes up on this random cart, and sure, he could have known the cart from his past, but when he talks to the guy literally tells him, Anna assured me there'd be no problem. And you're just like, okay, well, he clearly doesn't know the guy, because this guy would talk to him in a way that he would be familiar with Spike. But he's not.
Like, why would you mention the name? Yeah.
Yeah, so those consistency errors all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, was just Spike in general, right? Like, one of the biggest quotes in Cowboy Bebop is whatever happens, happens. But to me, Spike seems more tethered to decisions being made and what's going on the Bebop than in the anime. Like, whatever happens isn't a thing. You know what I mean? They keep saying that in the fucking series, but you don't feel that whenever there's those tethers. Like,
this is what I think. It's like, okay, like a cowboy riding on a horse, just he's enjoying the trail, and he's just like, whatever happens, happens, Like, we're riding the trail to see what happens. But this Spike is like, whatever happens, happens, and like he's just like
making it happening.
Yeah, like, it's just so fucking ridiculous. It's like they took those words, not understanding their meaning, and then just applied it to whatever they want.
Yeah, but then but then with the Perot episode, right? Like the Perot.
Oh God.
Whenever they're sitting there planning out for an hour what's gonna happen, and then he just fucking shreds the thing, and they can't leave anyways. Mm-hmm. What was the point of that? It was literally filler, and that's what I feel like. I feel like a lot of this was just like kind of random moments just to fill time. I will say this: there was one episode that I did enjoy.
We can't get cats. We'll change it to dogs. That'll make sense, and then we won't use them.
There was one episode I did enjoy, and that was Jet's backstory, because it was the only one that, for the most part, stuck to the original storyline. And again, Jet was the only factor in the entire show that I personally thought was okay, acceptable. And so that one was like, okay, this feels like a good. But that's the thing, though, right? Is you're not really imitating Cowboy Bebop, you're imitating Noir.
I was literally gonna say it was a big Noir detective story, and the problem with that is, one of the criticisms I saw like across the board, and I do agree with, was the absence of color. Like, Cowboy Bebop is a very colorful, like, vibrant show. Yeah, it does have dark themes and the mystifying with backgrounds, but it's colorful, and you're seeing that through the space travel and all that. But this show, one, acts as a space travel completely, and just sets this weird, dark, moody, like, we're trying to be like this ultra dark, mysterious blunder. Which again, like Noir, for the backstory of the Noir in his episode with his like partner, like fine, like again, like acceptable. But again, one of the coolest parts of that episode was was the fact that they were fighting on that prison transport ship in space. They were trying, to hawk they were trying to stop them before they got to another planet in a spaceport where they would have been, free reign. They would have
cost money, man.
Exactly, but the thing is, Jet travels outside of his ship into that ship. He braves the unknowns of space to get in there, and it's this really badass. It's a Jet scene, and we just didn't get that. It was literally like, oh, let me just do the old classic. Oh, he's outside the window on the fire escape. Let me get him, but he's in front of me. I gotta stop. He's shooting at me, sort of thing.
Yeah, let me recreate what happened the first time.
Exactly, it was almost like they were literally trying to like shot for shot this one part of the story, and it just, I don't know, man. Like it felt like it was really lazily done.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
again,
that on top of like him with his daughter.
Yeah, and it was just okay. Like, we get it, and he just would not let that Tupperware joke go. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, I was like, stop, man. We get it. She can. Yeah. Your wife can cook.
And I understand, I understand wanting to add in random stuff like that, but
for a series that seemed to push itself at being pressed for time and cutting a lot of stuff, they sure added crap that was completely unnecessary. That's how I felt about it.
Every single time he mentioned the doll, I was like infuriated, right? I couldn't fucking stand it. Well, it was just such a stupid thing, like
$35K. Oh, how much do you got on you? 7. Oh, well, lend me 1,000, I'll pay back. No, I got 7. I was like, that's not a lot of oolong.
And yeah, it's funny you say that, right? Because I feel like, okay, so whenever he was trying to get that doll, it was 10,000, right? 10,000 oolongs.
It was 10,000 from that toy store. The broker charged him 35,000.
You're right. 10,000 from the
Yeah.
toy store, which means the doll
Yeah.
costs 10,000.
Yeah.
How much was the part he needed to fix his ship?
Exactly.
It was 15,000,
Yeah.
which means they got something wrong in their own economics.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that, and I was like, 15,000. Wasn't
crucial
that doll
piece.
10,000? Like,
Yeah.
that means that you got it wrong. Like, even with your economics, like, you can't even fucking determine what the worth of a part for a ship is going to be, which is definitely going to be more than a fucking doll. Like, come on.
And that was used because she was gonna sell him one for like 100,000 or 60,000, something like absorbent, but more in line with what like a spaceship part would be. And it was just like so crazy
Yeah.
to me. I was just like,
And then
I don't know.
of course, there was
Like,
that
make it work.
scene. There was that scene where everyone was naked, no eyes, making the red eye. That scene felt to me like somebody thought, "Oh man, you know what would be real cool." I guarantee you that scene was made with someone beginning the conversation exactly like that. You know what would be real cool? Oh,
And I
so
know you.
fucking stupid, man.
I know you never got around to watching like the Netflix MCU stuff. Well, not MCU anymore, but like the whole Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage.
Yeah.
A lot of that had to do with like drug distribution. That was a huge problem for them.
Yeah.
And apparently, in those fucking circles, it is very customary to have them with stitched eyes, so that you don't know what you're seeing, or just blinded because the fucking drug uses and the fumes.
Yeah. But this
But
story takes place 70 years into the future. And
yes,
you
and oh
think
my
they'd have a better way
God.
of producing drugs by that point.
Dude,
You're
I
still
will say
sticking
that
to
one of
like
yeah,
old methods? Get them the fuck on,
yeah,
dude.
yeah. Like, okay, like little to no clothing, but the whole point of like, oh, if you're not wearing anything, you can't hide, you can't steal anything from us. I get it. I'm sure they weren't gonna have a scene of literally somebody stealing their space red eye heroin and shoving it up their ass, but
That was Asimov.
yeah, no kidding, dude. Oh my God, don't even get me started. How stupid that scene looked. It literally looked like it was out of like the Doom movie, which was just already dated. Like the whole like basically it was kind of like a bad FPS sort of thing where he's just like
Yeah.
like killing
It
them
looked
and stuff.
bad though.
But
And Doom did
yeah,
better.
but in the anime it was so cool. Like, dude, he was like whooping people's ass, breaking skulls and shit. But like, I will say one of the constant complaints with, again, I understand like the mystery and the setting of Cowboy Bebop, which again is supposed to be very futuristic. The show felt very old to me, like very old fashioned. Like they went out of their
Yeah.
way to use like older looking cars and like the clothing and just weird shit. Like you would think somebody who lives in that futuristic time would just be like, well, this looks off-putting to me. Even when Spike was in that simulation, like the people's clothes, I already knew like it was something that wasn't there because it's just like they look so fucking dated. It looked like the idea of what Fallout tries to do with like their futuristic thing, but everything's like 1950s style. And
Yeah.
even in that Western, space opera neo-noir sort of thing, like I just felt like it wasn't coming off as believable.
Of course.
And you have like the Red Dragon Syndicate, and clearly, they're dressed to their nines with their fucking space Gucci, space Armani looking suits. Very Chinese inspired. Especially with how the hierarchy is. The three elders, and Spike has like his open collar, like sure whatever, but that's not. There's nothing wrong with a suit
Yeah.
like that, and as the ex-cop, maybe like Jet's clothing choice is a little bit more relaxed, or like the whole
Yeah.
vest and thing like that. But
You know what's something
know.
else that bugged me? There was a scene where the newscaster gets surprised by something on TV. I think it was the whole tree thing, like turning them
Yes,
into
yes.
trees, and she goes,
yeah. What
"Oh,
the fuck?
nutbags."
Yeah. So she says nutbags. There you go. It's so
Dude,
weird.
how do you get away with making fun of your own content? Like
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. Like whenever
And
whenever
was-
you say something like that, you're literally like, "Oh, that's stupid." You're making a joke because it's stupid, and then you're forgetting that the rest of your series has these jokes constantly being said. Like,
And
I'm baffled. Like, I'm truly baffled. I like, going into this, I'm sure nobody expected to watch what we watched,
no.
but that's not a
you mean?
good thing.
No.
Just because
And
you
see,
surprised everybody doesn't make it good, man.
yeah, surprises aren't always good. Like I personally fucking hate surprises. Like no, and especially when it's some shit like that. But even within the confines of that episode, like the whole virus thing went through rigorous testing to find that it was going to turn people into chimps. It was going to turn them into monkeys, space gorillas, whatever you want to call them. Like, it was supposed to be an adaptive evolution backwards for humanity. But they went like this weird eco-terrorist route where they're like, oh, we're giving it back to Mother Nature. And they
there probably was a group of people they didn't want to offend, i.e. religious folks.
Right, but like I feel like this show and all its little weird side plot holes and plot lines, like it took from the main characters. That scene when it's Faye who originally discovers the vial, but Spike gets it, and then at that final confrontation, he leaves it there, which ends up turning all the eco-terrorists into monkeys. And within the confines of here, it's like, no, let's introduce one of her children as a female who's constantly getting shit on by the mother. And then at the end, she's like, no, Mom, I'm not going to spend a eternity in a cell with you. So then she drops the fucking gas and turns them into trees.
Every single time it could happen, it did happen.
Yeah. Like
every time it could happen, it did happen.
Yes, you're taking away from your own character's stories.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude. Like this,
like that character wasn't gonna show up again. What was the point of that? Like for who? It was ridiculous. It really was.
I didn't give a single bit of a shit for Vicious and Julia the entire time. Like every single time they came on screen, I found myself like wanting to dive into my phone.
Yeah.
Like I had no interest in that whatsoever. And one of the things specifically about Mama, like in the series, she acted as if she had all the cards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She had all the cards up her sleeves, and she was confident. Even though she got captured, she was still confident. Like, bet you I'm going to win still,
Yeah. She's
but
like,
in the live action, she's playing catch-up.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm telling you, every single thing that could change, they did change. Every single bit of it. And that's what was so weird to me, like... I'm literally like, I don't know what to say about it. Like I summed up this entire thing like in one long, comment, but I'll save that one to the end.
And it just, I don't know, man. Like I found myself like, and people, okay, there was this one article I'd read and comic book movie, so take that with a grain of salt. But people were like, oh, they didn't ruin Vicious's character because his character was ruined from the moment, whatever. And I know people like to throw out cringe, like it's this weird internet slang, and it's just like, dude, like Vicious was important to the story because he represented the past that Spike was trying to get away from, that was constantly trying to pull him back in. Like he was more, like a shadowy mythological figure, but still very much a fucking threat. He stages the coup, he kills the elders, he takes apart. We didn't get to see the cool fucking crow. I guess that was like an anti-PETA thing, but that whole fucking scene was badass in the anime. He literally uses the crow, stuffs it full of fucking explosives, and he stages almost a one-man revolt. He has his loyal little followers, but they were going up against a large part of the fucking criminal organization. Here, he just feels like this whiny, petulant child who's British for some reason, looks like a bad Targaryen, hair dye, is just this whiny, neurotic, like, oh, I'm not strong without other people, I can't do it, that's why he's fearless, blah, 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 and literally plays second fucking banana to a character who literally should have no way, shape, or form been portrayed the way she was.
Yeah.
And it was just laughable to me. Like, I never saw that guy as a threat whatsoever. And it was crazy because I honestly thought, like, by the end of it, whenever they do the first, major fight, which again is not even the middle point of the series, I was like, are they really just gonna kill off Vicious like this? Like, this is it? Like he's dead, right? Like he's shot multiple times now, and then they just show him like.
Well, I honestly thought
it was my plan, Spike.
I was at episode 6 whenever I started to realize I put down it's sunken at this point that we haven't seen much space in the past few episodes, not since Faye was shot down. Kind of odd for some space cowboys.
Yeah, no, it was ridiculous, and like she loses her ship immediately when that's her fucking ship. We don't even see, we don't say jet ship, but what we see is everybody have a fucking motorcycle for some reason. Yeah. Why would you need a motorcycle over a spaceship unless you weren't going to fucking space? And again, the
Hammerhead's not even in the show. One of the things that my girlfriend mentioned and noticed as the show was progressing, whenever Faye was actually with the girl, under the covers and just kind of spending time with her, she acted quiet and meek, but that's completely opposite from how she acts with all the men on the show.
Yeah.
And I think that goes down that same road, like the stereotyping of the female mechanic being lesbian or just any of the other ones, right? Like, I think it goes down that same
woman.
route. And I think
it ain't true.
And I think that's another failure, right? That's another stereotype, like again, I found it weird. The gunfights, the hand-to-hand combat, they were all really lackluster. I think the best one was probably the fight in the bathroom, but that's the one they used for like the trailer, like as a special, oh, check this out, you're gonna see this kind of stuff.
And we didn't get Andy.
Didn't even get Andy. And that's another thing that
22.
That's the other thing that
they
bugged
changed
me,
so much
dude.
shit and then cut out like legitimate goods parts. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. They did have his name like on the list of bounty hunters, but but the thing that bugged me about Teddy was he specifically wasn't targeting places to take human lives.
Yeah.
And in the video they showed was the police responding and literally a bomb going off right in front of them, which indicates something completely different. You know what I mean? That indicates that he's trying to kill people, but that's not the case. Not only did you ruin everybody else's dynamics and their reasoning and all of their influences, all of that, you also ruined, every single villain. And that's something that was really frustrating me. I remember sitting there thinking, like around the 6th episode, it was the episode before Faye's mom comes into play.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting thinking to myself, like,
changed.
Yes, there's a lot of changes.
Yeah.
But there's no original villains. No original villains. Am I wrong? There was none, right? There were no original villains. And so my problem with that is it indicates that all you're capable of doing is taking something that exists, making changes to it, and putting it out. You're not capable of coming up with something original, because I was actually at some point, like around episode 5 or 6, I was thinking to myself, like, well, I'd like to see an original villain, of course, and then bam, Mr. Mink comes out. And I thought, okay, I guess this is original, right? Because Mr. Mink wasn't in the original, at least not, there was nobody that was, proposed as that. But he ends up not being anybody. He ends up just being like the lover of the wife, who ends up being the guy that she was with whenever they take off in the spaceship. So he's not even an original character. He was just basically like a twist on an existing character. And I was like, fuck. The one thing I was like, you know what? Fine, give me some original shit. They gave it to me and it ended up not even being original. And I was like, man, dude, just fuck. And don't even get me started on that fucking Pierrot episode. I knew going into this we weren't going to be getting quality when it came to Pierrot. In our last video, I was very heavily against how Pierrot looked, the clear and obvious fact that he's on strings, all that shit. What else needs to be said, right? Like, we can look, everyone can sit here and watch a trailer, and we can discern things through the trailer that are going to ring true in the actual story or in the actual series. We don't have to watch the whole series to understand the decisions that they're making are not based on the quality of the show itself. They're based on agendas, and they're based on narratives that are trying to be pushed outside of the context of the show or the storyline. We can see those things. We don't have to watch the fucking whole thing. Nobody has to watch the whole series to understand that this was going to be a big piece of shit. But we did watch it, and it was fucking awful. The goddamn Earthland was such a fucking disappointment, dude. Such a disappointment. It's one of the coolest fucking episodes of any anime. It's Spike going through all these different fucking like thematic rides. Fall into the fucking the ice pit where dolphins are flying across, and he's got to avoid them because getting hit's gonna kill him. Getting on the fucking roller coaster. I mean, just all of that shit. He shows up to Earthland, jumps behind a couple of different booths, and kills Pierrot.
Which we don't even get to see.
The legendary fucking assassin.
Yeah.
The guy who's literally could fly. Like,
Had a force field, like super
it
strong, that enough
was
to like crush Skull
such
with his
a
fist.
fucking disappointment, dude.
He
Such a
didn't even have his
fucking
little
disappointment.
staff gun, nothing. Like it was
Oh my
ridiculous.
god, dude.
And the whole cat thing, where he's like screaming "Mama, Mama," but here they again it
They turned
switched to
into a
dogs.
dog.
Yeah,
Everything they could have changed, they fucking
yes,
changed.
it changes.
Every one of
He's
them.
like, it hurts, and then he's supposed to get crushed by the giant fucking
Yeah.
cat the cat animatronic, which again, it would have been changed to a fucking dog, but they didn't even do that. It's literally like just him flying into the sky now. I'm assuming atmosphere gives out somewhere, this fucking jetpack, and we just don't even get to see that. So they even they even deprive you of the character's on-screen death. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to say.
That one was
This was a huge disappointment. It was bad. It left me with zero hope for One Piece, especially because I mean, Yu Yu Hakusho with the special effects, if they're gonna suck, it's gonna be super fucking obvious. But with One Piece, the main character literally his ability to stretch like rubber is gonna look either shitty or they're gonna be like, never does he ever use his gum powers. It'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna punch you like this.
yeah.
Like never, or they'll just keep on reusing the same shot. And they'll be like the last villain of like fucking episode 10 that he finally stretches out, or it's just gonna look shitty, and it's just like there's no win there. It's ridiculous.
Do you know what pisses me off the absolute most? Like the one thing that literally like just sunk in as I was watching the scene when they showed the VHS for Faye,
Yeah,
and they
that whole
immediately
episode was cool.
switch.
Yeah,
They immediately switch over to the Bebop, and they have a VHS player, and I was like, I
That
guess
was
we're
the
not gonna get
entire
that badass fucking episode where Jet and Spike are fucking scouring this age-old, building.
yeah.
Dude,
All the
it's one of
shit
the
that goes
best
in there, like,
episodes.
yeah, and that's a better use of filler than what episode 6 ends up being. And not only that, but she finds it in the fucking random lockbox of the ex guy who literally
Yeah.
stole her life / turned into a mother, instead of it being delivered by her fucking friend on Earth, as she goes back and sees. And it was stupid too, because even on her file it says Faye Valentine. That's not her real fucking name. Her name was
Yeah.
Faye, but Valentine was the name that she got when she married the guy who fucking left her saddled with all the debt. So it's just like, no, you're trying to make this into her identity. It's like everyone's identity on this fucking show was changed to fit
Yeah.
a narrative, and it's so ridiculous. Ugh.
I think I counted in episode 7. They show Ein. I have it written down here at least. They showed Ein, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Now we've seen Ein 3 times."
Yeah, no kidding, right? Ugh.
Another one that was the vicious sends his regards.
Yeah.
Whenever that dude said that, I was like, "Oh man, it's so dumb."
Don't even get me like started on fucking Shin and Lin.
Yeah,
They were no more than a freaking like zero personality whatsoever. And like, oh, he was always the dumb one. Like, really? This was a guy who was literally cahooting with Spike to get him back into the organization, but you're gonna call him an idiot? Literally had his back on 2 fucking important pieces, and then they're twins, but one's a boy, one's a girl. Sure, like that makes sense. But the whole point of him helping him out in the final crusade is that Shin had already died, and Spike thought Lin was him because they looked alike. So really, not only do we not get that scene, because who's gonna fucking say that when they're clearly one of them's like a foot on the other one,
Yeah.
but they both die in the church shootout because Spike kills both of them. It's
Funny.
so freaking ridiculous.
yeah. Funny enough though, right? Because I did actually write something down for that specific scene. I thought to myself, right? Because whenever Vicious and the eunuch and Mao were coming up with their plan to kill all the elders, right? There was a scene where Vicious was tied, or he was handcuffed, and they're about to cut his head off, right? And I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, oh shit, could this happen? Are they really going to take it in this direction? Because I mean, they've changed a lot, right? Like, could they? And then immediately it occurred to me, oh wait, no, they've shown the scene where Vicious and Spike are fighting, and they've recreated the scene from the church. So obviously Vicious doesn't die here. So in your marketing, you fucking gave up one of the key moments of your show. Fucking idiot.
And this is living in the time where they will spoil everything they possibly can in a trailer.
Yeah.
There was literally a year that I went without watching trailers for like TV shows, movies, even games, because I wanted to at least hold on to some idea that like, okay, I'm not gonna have this experience ruined for me because I'll be able to experience it all firsthand. And it was great, man. Like I went into
Yeah.
Infinity War not seeing anything. Like, of course, I'd saw the previous movies, but I didn't have any of that stuff spoiled for me.
Yeah.
And I just felt like throughout this trailer, like you're like, oh, we're gonna have all your iconic scenes, and you're like, okay, you're trying to do something different, but yet you're literally spoiling something
Yeah.
that theoretically should be happening towards the end of your show.
Piggybacking
With
on the
content.
the existing current is what they're doing. They're
Yeah.
piggybacking off of the existing current, or I'm sorry, content, just so that they can make sure people watch it. That's all
And
that
then
is.
just
I
ridiculous.
saw whenever they showed the dad elder, Denethor, son of Ecthelion,
Yeah,
and
so
then
I noticed that
literally
too.
Vicious walks up to him and tells him tells him like
Boy.
he tells him like I hope you've become proud of the man I've become, father, or some shit like that. And I'm
Yeah,
like Faramir, like are we taking
yeah,
this
no, it took,
directly out of Lord of the Rings? Like what's
yeah,
happening?
it was ridiculous. And the problem with the whole like, oh, they're really gonna kill him like that. I was like, dude, I had no doubt because we'd already seen in the freaking what's his? Now I'm blanking on his head, blanking on his name. The guy who literally kidnapped
Nemec?
Ayn.
Oh,
No,
sorry, Hakeem.
Hakeem. Yeah, we saw that it wasn't a plastic surgery because the cooler thing, obviously, in this
Yeah,
pseudo backwards time period, is to show face changing technology,
yeah, which is
illegal
dumb.
or not. Yes. So when
And don't even tell
Vicious had
me.
revealed that he had changed his face, and like,
Yeah.
what?
And don't even fucking like, oh my god, dude. They took Hakeem and they made Hakeem so weird.
It
Hakeem,
was goofy.
the guy who is literally the character of Hakeem, the black guy with the afro,
Yeah.
that guy, Hakeem literally did not die as that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He died
didn't.
as a
They literally
crying
showed, like,
white dude.
2 minutes of him. Yes.
Like,
Like, what is
I
that
don't
for
know what
identity,
happened, man.
right?
It's so weird.
Everything they could have changed, they changed. That's what it was. And see, that's the crazy thing, because Vicious, he has that gray hair, he has the that sleepless look of his mind. He's very obviously not a fucking purebred Asian man, or sorry, British man. And then to add further insult to injury, you see that one of the elders, his father, is just as white looking as him with the same hair. Like clearly,
Yeah.
this is a racial trait of not a.
Yeah.
I don't get it, man. Like it's crazy for them to just do that.
Yeah, and there was that weird heart to heart where Jet's like, "Dude, I know you have to be like special forces or some shit, you know?
Yeah, what are you, ex special forces?
There's
Ex
nobody
army?
who's that cool. It's not in the
Yeah,
military, you know." And then,
right.
literally, immediately following that, like we have the Perot fight, and it's just such a dud.
Yeah.
So bad, man. Like,
Or
ah,
triple standoff in the bar again because they're in a bar, and she has that limp. She's like, "Oh, this wasn't from getting old. This is vicious and blah blah blah." I'm like, really? Like,
Yeah.
why would she have gotten that old in 3 years? She didn't even seem that old. Like, it was a stupid excuse. But of course, he fell for it. He's like, "Oh, it must just be because she's old," until she has to tell him.
yeah,
And again, if they're following, which again I somehow doubt now because we've changed so much. Eventually, she's not gonna just need a cane. She's gonna need a coffin. So we'll see.
yeah. And of course, the episode 9 was just a super disappointment. Like they were trying to make Vicious relatable, and
Yeah,
his
I
character was
really
just
think
like a
that episode,
scumbag. Like
it was so
there's
shitty.
no
It was
relatability.
that episode probably the longest one of the series thus far, and I was just like, man, I was tired. It was already so late in the
Yeah.
morning. I was just like, I'm not fucking done. I paused it and I was like, oh my god, I have like 35 minutes left. Like, this
Yeah,
is
no, I
ridiculous.
hated that episode. And then the one
Stupid.
following, of course, opens with them like a shot in hyperspace, literally 3 seconds,
Yeah.
done. No more of that. Yeah, I just
It's ridiculous because like the whole justification of Cowboy Bebop was you can't escape your fate. Like, this is all happening. You got one eye in the future, one eye in the past. But literally, this show seems to be creating the idea that like, yeah,
yeah.
you can fucking do whatever you want. Like, we're not gonna tell the story as it's told. This is new and exciting, and it's better.
And and it's funny because literally in that last video we talked about how easy CGI is to get when you're doing space. Like it's one of the easier ones. You don't have to do a whole lot. It's the void.
Star Wars. Look
You're
at
just
Star
putting
Wars
the
as like,
items in the darkness, you know? Like it's literally there was more in the original Star Wars movies than there were in this series. And that's problematic.
40 years ago.
That's problematic. Everyone who watches this and who's coming in with very little experience in anime or with Cowboy Bebop, you may watch this and think, well, it was all right, I guess. But you don't understand, like, there was a lot of that. There were whole episodes where they're literally just chasing somebody through space. The fucking, the trucker episode where they're literally trying to get to him. The chess master where they're trying to, they have to navigate through that entire broken down fucking space station. Like, Vicious is a fucking moron. The guy who plays Vicious is not good. He's absolutely, he's one of the worst parts of the series. Him and Faye Valentine.
It was from another Netflix show too. I ended up seeing like on the credit on his credits, and it was just like I wonder if that's like their way of like cutting corners and cutting costs. Is just be like, oh, let's do as much as we can in house. Yeah. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, he just looked like a tall Lord Farquaad to me.
Yeah, and everybody kept making those jokes too. Like it was everywhere in like the reviews. Again, I watched it all myself. Then I went to reviews. I wanted to see where I was like coming from, whether there was a consensus on this. And then of course you go to the general public with your Twitters and your your Instagram, your news feeds and all that, and then just seeing how much these people are agreeing with, and then the people who are like, oh, I thought it was alright, it was all blah, blah. It's always from like that side of I've never seen it before, or the people who are literally like, oh, I thought I was a long-time fan, I thought it was amazing, but then like people are literally in the comments underneath that like, why do you think that? Like share your reasoning, and then like there's people having of course there's shouting matches, blah 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 blah, but there are some that are having actual discussions, and it was just like a consensus that this guy was just bad. Like no, absolutely, like nobody's defending that. I would rather have a quote unquote one-dimensional villain that is bad for the sake of being bad or just killing people left and right than have to sit through hours upon hours of what is they're trying to portray a sympathetic villain. No, why would you try to gain sympathy for a villain in the first place? Like that's just ridiculous. Like do I care about Voldemort's backstory? Like no, dude. Do I care like what Sauron wanted to do? Like why would I? Like I don't understand that. And it's a mindset of a different generation, but I don't like that idea of trying to create a sympathetic villain. Like it's ridiculous.
To me, it just depends, right? Like if you can do it, then cool, do it, right? Like they don't make any effort whatsoever in the Lord of the Rings movies or in The Hobbit of trying to put you in the mindset of Sauron. It's not going to happen. Yeah. If you'd like to know that story, you can go to the books. You can go to the Silmarillion. Like all of these things are there for you to find this information. But for the sake of making it an enjoyable experience, they don't include that because you don't need to know that. All you need to know is he's a bad guy and he wears a helmet and he controls orcs, right? Like that's the thing. And if you can get away with it, like something like the Dark Knight, right? Like where the Dark Knight, where he goes over a lot of his motivations and
morality.
Exactly. Yeah. And he makes you understand that the reason he's doing it is more of a test than anything else.
Yeah.
Then you start to get an idea of where they're coming from. And if it's done well, then cool. It's done well and you enjoy it. But if it's done well, you better believe people are going to fucking tell you it's not done well.
But even
in this case, it was not done well. Vicious is this Vicious. In the show, he's like a fucking cruel, heartless asshole who just doesn't give a fuck what anyone thinks. And in this show, the live action, he's just fucking baby back bitch, man.
Yeah, he's constantly seeking approval.
It's just so weird.
Where I go, you go with me. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But here, it's just like, okay, Vicious is the son of an elder. He's constantly like, oh, don't you want to be a capo? Blah, blah, blah. You got to think for yourself, yada, yada. He's constantly chasing the approval. Literally, like you said before, what he tells his dad before he kills him is, Are you
proud of me now?
Father? Are you proud of me now, Papa?
You old bastard.
Like it's crazy.
Because we're all cowboys here.
Yeah, exactly. The Horned Toad says we should head north. Like,
we're the Red Rattlesnake Syndicate.
Like, why are you using a katana, you freaking weeb? Like, why don't you use something more British? He should have taken off his glove and challenge him to a duel. Get out the flintlock pistol.
It's stuff like that, right? Like, it's so diehard that some things have to be done right, but then other things have to change to the degree that they change, and it's
So
just,
dramatically.
it's like, how do you pick and choose, man? Like,
Let me ask
I
you
don't
this
know.
question. All that done to him, all the dumb backstory, the chasing father's approval. How does that fare for his character in the end? Did it lead to some big payoff that really just put us in our
Well, I
place?
don't know because he's still alive.
Still, but surely he's in a position of power, right? Like his coup worked, and he's now leading the Red Dragon Syndicate on a manhunt for Spike Spiegel.
I have no idea. With the inconsistencies they've shown so far, maybe Julia's only doing it to make people think Vicious doesn't have power. So that whenever they
Yeah,
come to her, she can say, oh, no, it wasn't Vicious. He's been tied up here in my fucking basement.
exactly.
I have no
Chained to the
fucking
wall,
clue.
like he's
But, no,
fucking
trust me. I get
serious
you're trying to
prisoners
be
of
facetious for
Azkaban.
sure, but I honestly couldn't tell you. You know what I mean? Like,
Ridiculous.
I don't know what motivations any of the characters have anymore because they're not the same from the anime, not the same from like the original storytelling perspective.
Yeah.
So I don't know what their motivations are, and you can sit there and say that we put a lot of work in trying to make sure that their motivations are matched, and we found people who could find who could find that rhythm and soul of each character, and we just want to make sure and get it right so we can honor the fans and all this kind. You can give me that bullshit when their motivations in the live action are completely different from what they are in the animated series or just anything else. Then yeah, you fucking failed, man. Like, don't give me that bullshit. Like, do you really
It,
think I'm gonna fall for it?
it's crazy, man. It's like you're setting it up for some weird like, oh, Spike was a double agent, and then Vicious is now a double agent. At that point, Julia reveals herself to be a double agent, and it's so ridiculous. Like the whole like trying to put her on the soapbox. They're like, you were alive and you never came for me. You
Yeah,
left me with him. And I was like, where were you really? Like, yeah, you might not have loved him, you might have been scared of him, but you were living in the lap of luxury, essentially a trophy wife, when before that you were literally like a singer trying to catch a break, like at a bar. Like, don't act like he ever put hands on you, he ever like threatened you with violence, nothing like that. That was not the relationship y'all had, which was insane to me because yes, in the original anime, Julia was with Vicious. Like, I'm not disagreeing that that is what happened, and then the whole affair with Spike, yes. But they were truly some people. There were two people who cared about each other. It's just completely portrayed. But in here, like she's almost like this, like waiting in power till it's my time to strike, like conniving woman, like the entire
yeah.
time, like setting up her domino, but like with her like sultry good looks and her big, like full lips of like, they did like that whole with the makeup too, like to show like that's where like the poison is. You know what I mean? Like she is like the femme fatale of fatality,
Funny
and it was
enough,
just
right? She also
it's
couldn't sing
crazy.
very well.
No, I was like,
Like, and that's the thing
that,
is like they kept making like a big
when
deal about it, and I was like, well, she's not even that really that good.
I laughed so hard, I laughed so fucking hard when Vicious kills Mao, and it's like that's for making Julia sing. And I was like, yeah, because she sucked. Like he didn't want anyone to know. That's why he killed her. Like it was so stupid. And it's because like, oh my god, like, and I hate to say this, dude, because I have nothing but respect for the, was it Ono, the Yoko, the one who did the music for Cowboy Bebop, because I felt like,
Kano.
yeah, Ono, they just did this weird fucking thing, like they try to like up the jazz to like 35, man, like everything was like so musically crushed, like constantly showing like the live music, and there was nothing wrong with that. It's just like with like the background fight scenes and everything, like the music, the tone was just so poorly executed. And
Yeah.
then they try to do like cold opens within the show, which was really stupid because then they would have like the music playing and then they would cut to the music of the opening, but it would still be the music playing. And each episode it got worse.
Yeah.
Like there was even a point where within like the actual talking, the dialogue between two characters, they started playing Tank, and then Tank would be bleeding over into Tank playing for the opening credits,
Yeah,
and
they
then they
started
would
the song
stop
too
and
early.
yeah, and they restarted, and I was just like, what the fuck? But they kept on doing it, and I was just like, what is happening? Like the music, which was like one of the linchpins of why this show was so good, just took a weird like
Yeah.
word back step, man. I just did not understand that. It was crazy. And I was waiting like for like the real folk blues to play, even within like the confines of the church fight, and it just
Yeah.
didn't. And I was so disappointed. Closing thoughts. it was a chore. It was very tiresome to me to sit through those 10 episodes, like I said, and it got late, and I did not want to keep my eyes open, not for lack of sleep, but just because every time it was open, something was bastardized upon the screen,
That's true.
and the plot and pacing were clunky. Again, it was not a vibrant, colorful piece of work that it could have been. Especially the spacefaring not only took like a back seat, but they left it at home apparently, and just the casting choices were proven to be poor in my opinion.
Yeah.
It told a story that was from a book I've never read, and I can guarantee that those who have seen this and have watched the anime would agree with me on that.
Yeah.
Overall, I found it lacking not only in substance and heart, but just genuine enjoyment. And by the time I was finished, I went to bed and I woke up with what only could be considered a television hangover. Like I had a headache. Like it was just like processing it, man. Like I'm disappointed as a fan. I am, and I don't have any. I don't have any enthusiasm or hope that either One Piece or Yu Yu Hakusho will be done in a way that satisfies fans. And to be honest, I don't think those stories can be told in a way that would satisfy general audiences as well. So, if I had to put a number on this out of 10, I'd say 2 is being generous, 3 is being outlandish. But, at the end of the day, all we can do is say our piece.
I mean, I understand completely. I think that the show was made by a crew that to me was not confident that they could pull off an actual adaptation. I think that they instead decided to switch literally everything so that they could present the story in any fashion they want to and not face the repercussions for failing to capture that light. If they were trying to capture the story of Cowboy Bebop, then I feel like they failed miserably. Adaptations almost always require changes to suit live action remakes for sure. But when those changes are so vast in number and by degree, you're now forsaking that which you're piggybacking. Using the name is free marketing in a sense. Even if you're fresh to the anime or are a new fan of the genre, odds are you know what Cowboy Bebop is, so expectations are set from the beginning. And as a creator, if your marketing and your push for the series include you honoring the title, those expectations get stronger that source material is going to be taken seriously. At times, I felt dismay at the utter lack of continuity, not only compared to the source, but against their own storytelling. The first 3 episodes featured some space visuals, and then it kind of just stops. When they would show space, it's quick cuts of the ship entering or leaving hyperspace, just to indicate a time skip, which I feel like is a super lazy decision, just to avoid having to flesh out any good segments that we could have had. I also feel like around the 4th episode, the momentum begins to kind of taper off, which is unfortunate, right? Because we have 7 more episodes to go. And I felt it difficult to actually push through to the end. John Cho and Mustafa Shakir at least attempt to get the characters right, with the latter, Shakir being the only character I actually enjoyed throughout the series. But Daniela Pineda makes Faye Valentine an immensely difficult character to watch. The decisions they made with Faye Valentine, from altering her story from being a wanted criminal to a seasoned bounty hunter, to the obvious choice in language where she shows up vomiting what I assume to be involuntary obscenities, will forever be a stain on the legacy of live-action remakes, and the series as a whole is a strong leap down the flight of stairs that many attempts before had previously climbed. The depiction of the world as a whole and the language used throughout, in my opinion, feels they took that world into a darker, way more sexualized directions that most will likely turn any potential newcomers to the title and genre away, which is awful because there are a lot of beautiful stories that are told throughout the medium. stories that would be really easy to translate into live action, setting. Like what we're getting is people watching this, and that's their take on anime. I mean, that's it, right? Like, because you watch this and you've never watched anime before, this is what you see. This is what you are being told is anime, and if it's just constant crass vomiting, like, no one's going to want to watch that shit, and it's going to take away from the genre as a whole. I feel like the reason why fans are so demoralized is because we've held out hope for decades just to see any one of the many lovely tales that we know and love come to life in a way that we haven't seen before. Cowboy Bebop is one of those stories. It's an incredible telling of a ship of bounty hunters plagued with forever brokenness, racing through the void for the next price tag. And we still have that with the anime, sure. But the audience that watches this new series won't know that. They'll take it at face value and assume the anime is the same. What Netflix did to Cowboy Bebop is revert years of honest attempts to capture the story and soul of existing anime, and in my opinion, sent it straight back to its infancy. The changes and utter disregard for the source material reminds me of Dragon Ball Evolution. My interest for the live-action Yu Yu Hakusho and One Piece series just took a complete nosedive. I'm glad I watched the entire series because I wanted to give the absolute most unbiased and accurate review that I could give, and in my opinion, Netflix's Cowboy Bebop live-action series is a hard 2 from me. Jet is the only saving grace for me personally, and I do feel that they did an acceptable job portraying his backstory, not the needless addition of his daughter and her stepdad for an inevitable plot point. Ed
boy.
I knew it. I abso-fucking-lutely knew that they were going to cast a gender fluid, androgynous character just so they didn't have to even deal with it. Which, one, is lazy.
Yeah.
Two, I understand, if that's the case, right? But she is expressly stated as a female. That is who she is.
Yep.
She is a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what's weird for me, right, is like, I don't know if that was like a conscious decision. Like, I don't get it, man. She is a girl, and your whole show is about empowering women. And all of a sudden, now you have Ed, who's no longer a woman. Might be a woman in the show, right? But you have a person playing her who is a they-them. They-them isn't Ed, a female.
No. She says it herself.
And that character...
I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. That was literally some of the goofiest...
I almost fucking vomited right there at the end of it. Laying in bed.
Shittiest eye job, looking like a...
It looked like fake hair.
Capri Sun commercial coming, like Spirit Halloween spray can hair, like...
Yeah, it was bad.
Commercial looking effects. And why, oh why, was it nothing but quick cuts and fucking Dutch...
Like Pee Wee Herman, dude.
Yeah. Like,
it literally was like, ah! I was like,
yeah.
What's happening?
It was like an early 2000s video game commercial. Like, whoa, check this out! With up to 5 playable characters, 37 guns, and 20 levels of action-packed carnage. You gotta come with it. Like, oh my God, settle down, Activision. Like, Jesus Christ. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this content, consider liking the video. Also, make sure you're subscribed to be considered in our giveaways. We'll hold them routinely as our subscriber goals are met. This has been The Shit Take. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's easy, and we hope to see you next time.